Don't try this? Well, looks like I know what I'm doing. Hello again everyone, and welcome to another dumb challenge. Today's is not one of my own making, but rather attempting one that someone else made. Like the Portal videos, I streamed this in its entirety on my Twitch, but unlike the Portal run, it didn't take one day. It took 3 weeks. Today, we return to one of my favorite games, that being Terraria, but with the famous Calamity mod, where we search to do something that as far as I can tell has never been done before. Welcome to the Calamity mod low percent to Yharon run. Let's start this ordeal at the place it began, a YouTube video. On May 29th, I was looking through Calamity mod videos when I came across one called How to Beat Yharon Pre-Moonlord by Toasty. This video shows that it is technically possible to kill Yharon before Moonlord, and it shows some suggested weapons to do so in the fewest number of bosses. This video repeats multiple times to not attempt this, including on the thumbnail. So naturally, I'm gonna attempt it. I created a dummy world to check some things, and it turns out, as long as you disable hard mode progression, it is indeed doable. Now, some people might be unfamiliar with the Calamity mod. If you've never played it or it's been a while, Calamity mod can basically be regarded as Terraria 2, since it adds 27 bosses, 12 mini-bosses, over 700 weapons, almost 2,000 items, over 500 total changes to vanilla items, crafting and progression. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. It's due to the chaos that this run has that makes it even theoretically possible. To keep the intro from being 20 minutes long explaining the intricate details of everything, I'll explain it as I go, so there will be plenty of grinding time in which I can explain it. Speaking of grinding, I have some quality of life mods that help minimize the agony. Those mods include Alchemist NPC, Louis AFK, Magic Storage, Fargo's Mutant, Fisherman, and Vein Miner, to name the important ones. I wanted to focus on the boss fights as they were what were tracking progression for this run. Going by the video, events are allowed and do not count towards progression, but I wanted to limit the ones that I did, that way I add some extra flair to the run. I want to give myself the best shot at seeing if this run was possible, so I made a medium world to give enough space while not being too big, normal mode to up my chances of survival, and Crimson since it was less annoying to deal with than Corruption, and Ichor is a great debuff to inflict. With all that information cleared up, let's begin. June 18th, Day 1. As the world loads, hopefully you can see a contradiction to what I just said. If you weren't paying attention, I said I was making the world normal difficulty, but yet I made it expert. Why is that? That's because of this little thing right here, the Mutant's Gift. Compliments of Fargo's mod, using this puts the world into expert mode and then into eternity mode and spawns a deviant NPC. In eternity mode, she gives you a gift, which for me is life crystals, mana crystals, better tools, magic storage units with crafting and interacting station, some insta houses, and some starter accessories. I used it again to disable eternity mode, and this would leave the world in expert mode. Now, I had a plan to get back into normal mode, and that was through the mutant NPC, who sells the expert token once you kill a boss. The issue is, he won't spawn until I kill a boss, and with this run, that first boss is the Wall of Flesh. We'll get back to the Wall of Flesh later. So, what was the plan? I don't know. I didn't really have a plan. I had objectives, things I needed to get done, but in no particular order. My goal for this stream was to learn what I had in the world to work with, what it looked like, and where things were. However, I had a fun issue of my game window being overlapped by my taskbar. This kept me from clicking on the bottom bit of the screen. 5 minutes of troubleshooting later, I fixed my taskbar to the left side of my screen, which gave me the same issue, but I wouldn't need to interact with anything over there, so I was fine. For now, anyways. With this stupid thing fixed, I was able to keep going. I did this because I needed to check a setting in Calamity's config. Calamity adds a hard mode progression, where you start off with the first hard mode ore tier, and each mechanical boss you kill adds another tier of ore. I had to turn this off since I needed Mithril, and I would need to kill a mechanical boss in order to get it if I didn't turn this off. Something I figured I'd check now before I get post-wall. As I carry on getting stuff, let's discuss the plan. Anyone who is familiar with Terraria would know of a weapon called the Star Cannon, a very strong range weapon that shoots fallen stars. The guide recommended 200 to 300 stars. That's a lot, but I had a plan. Thanks to Louis AFK, there is an unlimited star ammo item. To craft it, all I need is 300 stars. This is something I would need to focus on for all of pre-hard mode. Back to the run, I explored some more, bailed at the desert, used a Fargo item to make a elevator, watched the deviant fall down the elevator, and started making a base for some NPC houses, then went down the elevator to see what I could find. I found a minecart track and went right into lava. This is about how well my cave trips go early on. I went back, burned myself in lava again, and narrowly escaped death. I was unfit for underground and bailed back up to the surface. As morning started, I went up to the merchant and began purchasing some rope. I was going to make another unlimited item, unlimited rope, which you can make from 999 rope. My goal was to get some quick cash and ores in the planetoids. For those who don't know, Calamity adds in small balls of stuff in the space layer. These have a bunch of stuff, such as loot, ore, money, the likes. I was here to exploit the fisherman NPC. This was how I would get some good stuff. I got the money, made a plant farm, and I got back to exploring. I also had an enemy get stuck in the wall. Get stuck in the wall, idiot. I needed glass, which meant I needed sand. Rather than dig some sand, I used the vein miner mod to auto-excavate 1,000 sand, a mining strategy that I was sure to use multiple times. I did this so I could make a lot of potions, something I was sure I would need. I found the crimson and immediately did a 180. I made a few hundred glass, turned that into bottles, then water bottles. With all of these, I made one builder potion, I made some torches, and then made my next quality of life item, the platform builder. This instantly makes a platform around 200 blocks wide. Of course, I wasn't going to build platforms, but rather stack them together and use vein miner to collect hundreds of wood. Soon I had over 3,500 wood, enough for the rest of the playthrough. 2,000 would go to the skybridge builder, another quality of life item which makes a platform spanning the whole world. I started to explore space with my new platform builder. This would also serve as a way to start catching fallen stars. I got some clouds, grabbed some demonite, which was basically worthless, went back and made skybridge builder. I made a platform near the top of space and started collecting all the fallen stars that fell onto it, and continued exploring space. Once I hit the edge of the world, I dropped into the ocean and found the angler. I was happy to see him because fishing would be an important part of pre-hard mode. I continued exploring and made it to everyone's favorite Terraria location. With nothing better to do, I jumped in to look for loot. I got hurt by a beetle, had to itch my nose, I gotta pause, my nose itches, almost died to bees, found the temple which was almost completely worthless, then died to silt. My new goal was to make the subway builder, a thing that makes a minecart track that spans the whole world. Made some houses, found ice caves and the life crystal. I'd been avoiding life crystals since once over 200 health, bosses would spawn automatically. That's why I kept my health at 180. I went back to spawn and gathered more stars. In the morning, I went to explore the Crimson and died. I then followed up doing the exact same thing. I broke some pots and got 5 gold from one. The fisherman NPC was here, so I went on a shopping spree and bought a fishing rod and some bait. I was to make another Louis of K item, the unlimited fishing rod. These rods have unlimited bait, and the better the rod, the more lines it casts. So mine throws 2. I looked for some floating islands and only found the Star Fury. I tried the jungle again and got some stuff. I found the jungle laboratory, looted it, and left. One night of star farming later, it was off to fish. I did a quest and then went to the Sulphur Sea. I was here to grab an accessory called the Abyssal Amulet. When equipped, any attack inflicts a debuff called Crush Depths. It's like fire, except stupidly strong. I was prepared to fish for a while, but got it on my second cast. Man, I wish I had that luck in vanilla Terraria. I tried to protect myself from the approaching croc, but was unable to. I went back to the Crimson and died again. I finally made it down and broke a Crimson Heart. This gets me meteor spawns, which I need to make the Star Cannon. I bought a Reaver Shark from the fisherman, and since it's 1.3, I could mine Hellstone with it. I did some more underground exploration and made it to Hell to get some Hellstone. At this point, I had a great idea. Things may spawn naturally when I have above 200 health, but if I don't kill them, they don't invalidate the low percent run. So now I had 300 health. I died as a meteor spawn. I gathered stars at night, ending with goblins stopping by. I avoided this for another hell trip, I died and went back down. I used Vein Miner to get some stone. At the surface, I made some Hellstone bars, made molten armor, and then used the Star Fury to melt the Goblin invasion. This marked the end of my first stream. Quite a lengthy beginning, but there was a lot that got done, all in preparation for the very first boss. Stream 2 happened the next day. My goal for this stream was kill the first boss of the run. I continued working on getting materials for the subway builder. This needed 4,000 minecart track, along with about 1,500 stone, 150 dynamite, 400 torches, and 500 wood. Quite the shopping list, so I chose to go into space and clear out the planetoids. The game had other plans for me. I'm going to carry on making stuff. I'll die to Eye Cthulhu, this is gonna be embarrassing. Normally, a free ice spawn would be welcomed, but for this run, he's technically optional, so I can't kill him at any point during the run. In the meantime, I made some bars, got stone, bought 144 out of 150 dynamite, remembered to get some stars, got more stone, then made an important journey. A meteor had landed, and thanks to the Reaver Shark, I could excavate it all early and get plenty of meteor for the star cannon. Now I just needed a mini shark. In the meantime, I just crafted more things, did some fishing, found a stupid little goblin man, did more fishing, then gathered more stars. By this point, I had enough stuff for the subway builder. I then made a crap ton of obsidian for the platform builder, and then made the platform builder. I could now make a platform or minecart across the whole world. I then began on my Wall of Flesh arena. I had devised a foolproof plan, at least I think so. Here's how. The Wall of Flesh stays in between the ceiling and floor of Hell. Using a platform builder, I could clear an entire screen's worth of stuff. This would cause the wall to spread out evenly. The mouth would line up with me on a platform in the middle, and the eyes would stay at the same height above and below me. Unlimited star cannon later, he dies. Until then, I made the arena, looted the Hell Lab, and looted the rest of the drops. I then had my next great idea. Remember that sky bridge? If I put a minecart track over it, I could grab fallen stars without having to press anything. Although I didn't use it for the first night. The Eye came back for another night, but I just outran him. I then went back to exploring, crafting, and star collecting. An hour later, I had gathered enough of everything to take on the Wall of Flesh. With all the prep done, I went down to Hell to fight the Wall of Flesh. Remember my strategy? And? Turns out, that's how you do a near hitless fight in about 68 seconds. There's one boss down, 5 to go. I gathered my loot and was blessed with a 10% drop, the Loot Magnet. This item sucks in all dropped items from anywhere in the world directly to you. Almost necessary for the farming of enemies and events that I was sure to do. Now began the early hard mode grind. If you're familiar with Terraria, you know the routine. Basically, you mine an ore, make tools, then mine the next higher ore, and repeat a couple of times to get to the best tier of ore. While I do this, let's talk about my plan for the next boss. Calamity starts spawning Plantera bulbs once hard mode begins. So that's my next boss. I planned on farming the coin gun from the Pirate Invasion event. The ammo for this is costly, but in a similar way to the star cannon, I would farm money by doing the event and could make unlimited coins for ammo. It's a shame that these don't count as money though. Back to the grind, I was mining ores and farming souls. Standing under the respective biome in hell is an efficient way to farm, especially with some spawn rate boosters. While I was there though, I was getting kind of tired. Now, I wasn't up late. In fact, I had just woken up a few hours before streaming, so I should have been wide awake, but yet I wasn't. To try and wake myself up, I ended the stream and went for a nice walk outside. June 22nd, day 3 of this run. This day was about one thing: the grind. I started by trying to farm a pirate map from the ocean. Turns out my ocean was complete garbage. It must have been on super flat in the world settings because seriously, what the heck is this little ocean? It made enemy spawns harder since there was less water for them to spawn in. I changed my plan of attack and focused on getting the Ancient Master's map of the Lost King's great ancestors, an item with the longest name I've ever seen, which when used reveals the entire minimap. I needed some eyes and glasses for it, so I spent the night farming Demon Eyes for lenses. A night of farming later, I had reached a roadblock. Sunglasses need black lenses, which are a rare drop or craftable with dye from squid ink, bringing me back to the tiny ocean problem. My solution was to boost enemy spawn rates to override the small area. I settled on the Battlecry item, which boosts spawn rates by 10 times. I needed more battle potions, which means I needed to farm vertebrae in the Crimson. After a farming session, I went to see what the hollow biome looked like, and found it was entirely in the snow biome. This was bad because I planned on farming for holy arrows for later fights, but would struggle because snow spawns would override the hollow spawns. This would be something I would deal with later. For now, I went back to farming. After an unsuccessful vertebrae farm, I went to hell to farm the wall for an extra, well, everything. Once I had pulverized the meat wall, I went back to farming for spine pieces. I finally got enough and was able to make the Battlecry. One fishing quest later, I was going to the ocean to farm for a pirate map. The increased spawn rates made farming it much easier. 8 minutes later, and I had farmed a lot of everything, including a shark tooth necklace, jellyfish necklace, and a life fruit that got broken, loot magnetizing everything to me. I started getting diving equipment, which will be used later. I then made the Ancient Master's map and revealed the whole minimap. I then went back to mining ores now that I could see where all of them were. My next step was to get a hard mode weapon upgrade, and I had one that was perfect in mind for farming the pirates. One that Terraria players know all too well, the Daedalus Stormbow. Now, all I had to do was farm hollowed mimics. I stayed in hell to farm Souls of Light and the naturally spawning hollowed mimics. The Daedalus Stormbow has a 25% chance to drop from a hollowed mimic, so it should take 4 kills, right? Well... how far he moves, how some of the attacks are like you'd have to jump over on Torrent, and you could outpace the orb on Torrent. But that also might have made it too easy, which is... Finally! Stormbow! It took so long. So many Illuminate hooks later. It took 21 mimics to get a single Daedalus Stormbow, which means that it was about a 5% chance instead of a 25, So I think the wiki is wrong. Or maybe it isn't, since I got another one on the very next kill. Bloodhound Steps just like super good. Okay, I swear to God, if I get a third Daedalus Stormbow with this key. This concluded the stream since I knew what was coming next. A couple days later, on June 24th, I got back into it. I started the next stream wanting to update everybody on some important current events, and I want to give my thoughts on them. It is June 24th, 2022, and a little bit of news came out today. It's a very big news. Apparently Calamity 2.0 is out for 1.4. Yeah, apparently it's no longer 1 point something, it's 2.0. And if that doesn't serve as motivation to get this done, I don't know what does. So, turns out Calamity is finally 1.4. I plan to keep the run in 1.3 though, because I was afraid that 1.4 would change some things that would compromise the run. Not like that happens in this version anyways. Today was pirate time. Time to farm the coin gun. I'll keep it brief. It ended up being my most useless stream, which is funny given that it was my most watched stream to date. I spent the next 3 hours telling random life stories as I was sitting and raining arrows down on pirates. If you can't tell, I never got a coin gun, and no mods had a craftable recipe that I could make one out of. The only productive thing I did was make an elevator into the jungle for easy access for Plantera's fight. Now, what was I gonna do for the remaining fights since I didn't get a coin gun? Well, I thought of that. Calamity adds a weapon called the Titanium Railgun, a slow-firing, strong-damaging gun made out of titanium bars. This weapon also pierces, making it ideal for blasting through the things Plantera spawns during her fight. The next stream happened another 2 days later on June 26th. I spent about 15 minutes digging a Plantera box, which was immediately followed up with a fight. For those wondering, I had bought the expert token from the mutant NPC, which let me put the difficulty back into normal. The only issue I had was since I didn't kill any mechanical bosses, I didn't have a hollowed pickaxe, so I had chlorophyte clumps in the way. After a pretty uneventful 7-minute fight, I was able to kill Plantera with a little help from the Cloud Elemental and Abyssal Amulet. I had killed my second boss, and was given yet again another lucky break. This time, I got the Blossom Flux, a rare drop from Calamity that does this. This weapon was a blessing for what came next, which unsurprisingly was another grinding session. My next boss was a Lunatic Cultist, and the uneducated of you might be going, wait, how can you fight Cultists without killing Golem? Meet the Idolist, an enemy that used to spawn in the dungeon but now only spawns in the Abyss. This is what I was getting the diving equipment for. For those who haven't played Calamity, one of your oceans is changed to the Sulphur Sea, which has a giant trench below called the Abyss. This is why for when I was farming ocean enemies, I was stuck to the tiny one all the way on the right. The Abyss is structured into 4 different layers. Idolists spawn at layer 3, and they only spawn after Plantera is defeated. And I just want to take a little note here that in a current version of the mod, apparently they spawn at the start of Hardmode. Man, really just should have done it now, shouldn't I? The downside is that Layer 3 also has mini bosses spawn, which from my experience spawn way more frequently than the Idolists. Also, Idolists drop Eidolian tablets, which are the things I use to spawn Lunatic Cultists, but they only drop them 25% of the time, at least according to the wiki. I found out an efficient way to farm them, at least as efficient as possible. I would use my diving gear and gills potions to increase my air supply, which would increase the time I can spend once I get down there. My ace in the hole was the unlimited recall potion, which acts like a magic mirror sending me back to spawn, but also has a recall feature, letting me warp back to where I teleported from. I would do this to refill my air and avoid any deadly mini-bosses, but be able to go back to where I was and not have to worry about making the long journey back down. This may seem cheap, but it was better than dying and having to travel all the way back. Oh, that is... Oh, that is trippy to look at. The Blossom Flux made it nice to laser everything that tried to fight as I went down. What's your favorite part about getting down in the Abyss? Is it the increasing lack of light as you go down? Is it that you're permanently slowed from water? I think the best part is that you have to zigzag down as you slowly sink through each layer. I finally found an idolist, and...
Oh, I forgot that freezes you.
Oh boy, this was about to be the worst grind of the run, wasn't it? And yes, it happened the next time too, and again. This happened because the idolists shoot ice things, which in Calamity temporarily freeze you in place, which, in a place where you move slow, it sucks. Add in the mini-bosses, which are really dangerous given my lack of hard mode equipment, and yeah, this sucked. It took like 40 minutes of farming, but eventually I finally got a tablet.
Let's go! We got a tablet! Woo!
Lunatic Cultist. Yeah, there isn't much to say about him. He isn't the hardest fight, but at least for this run I still had to pay attention because I only had titanium armor and a pre-golem weapon. To demonstrate this, I equipped the Cloud Elemental to help, who immediately hit a Ghost Cultist, causing the dragon to spawn. My health very clearly reflected the increased difficulty the fight took on. I accepted my impending fate and then just fought him again without the Cloud Elemental. I hit the wrong cultist off screen and just reset the fight. After 5 minutes, I had killed the cultist without spawning anything else into the fight and now had the lunar event to deal with.
Woo! It's time. We've gotten to the lunar event.
I'll keep this section brief since I just need some lunar weapons and it's the exact same as vanilla Terraria. The Stardust Dragon for some extra DPS, Phantasm from Vortex Pillar because it's just stupidly strong, Nebula Blaze from Nebula Pillar in case I want to make a magic build, and Daybreak from the Solar Pillar giving me a very decent close range and kind of far range melee weapon. Since I would not be fighting Moonlord this run, I gave no effort even trying. I stripped naked, held the loot magnet high, and waited for death.
Low defense too. No, I probably could have killed him in all honesty.
Up next was to fight Ravager, who spawns via a death whistle. To make one, I needed to get 15 solar tablet fragments and 25 lizard bricks from the jungle temple. Now you may wonder, how am I supposed to get the bricks since I have no pickaxe to possibly mine any from the temple? To bypass this, I needed to kill some little guys known as boulders? Bouldors? I hate these names. They have a guaranteed drop of lizard bricks. So I just needed to do some light farming, and in a short trip to the temple, I had gotten everything I needed. The plan for the fight was simple. Phantasm plus Ichor arrows equals very simple fight. Ravager fights like Golem, but since I'm not constrained to a room, I can just go in a single direction and be completely fine. 3 minutes later, he was dead.
And there we go. Ravager down.
I got to reap my rewards. Fleshy geodes. These gave you a few cryonic, scoria, and perennial bars, along with a couple of cores of cinder, chaos, and Ellium, letting me make multiple things without having to fight multiple additional bosses. I fought him multiple times to farm the materials until I popped in and I had to stop fighting. I made a scoria pickaxe and went into the abyss to mine out the rest with Vein Miner. This would be my last armor upgrade of the run, which, if you know the Calamity mod, means that I am super squishy for anything post Moonlord, of which both of my remaining fights happen to be, which look at that. If you know Yharon, you can begin to guess how bad this will be, but first, I have the Dragon Folly. The remaining fights of this run are kinda funny. Yharon is one of my favorites with the focus on mobility over limiting where you can fly. And on the other hand, Dragon Folly is one of my most hated fights in the mod. Being under-geared definitely does not help that. I went to fight just as a little quick DPS test and...
That wasn't good.
Wow, that was actually surprisingly decent. The issue is a feature of the Calamity mod called velocity-based contact damage. The faster something plows into you, the more damage you get dealt. Dragon Folly has all of like 4 attacks, one of which he loves throwing out is a charge. Traditionally, you can dash. but since all the items that grant a dash are either locked behind a boss or require items I can't obtain, I had to come up with something else. So I made some platforms and tried again. My plan was to kite it into a circle. My only issue was when I ran out of flight time and Folly felt like charging. This would leave me suspended in the air and I'd get hit. This worked great until phase 2 when it reached 50% and became enraged. It got much faster, had an increased attack rate and movement speed, which all meant more damage. Now the issue was the feathers that would arc, making me change direction slowly, which left me open. Yeah, the boss fights were hard now, and it got harder exponentially. Next attempt failed, following attempt was even worse. I did some more grinding for hydrothermic wings so I had better flight, then tried to get some magic stuff. Next attempt I died to a diagonal dash. Playtime was over, I needed to focus on the fight, so I began the fight and was doing really well. I got caught by a couple of dashes, but I could heal up from them, and things were looking good. It was going real good, until...
Out of the way. Evil Presence 1. I'm fighting.
Turns out the eye wanted to spawn during the fight. Even though, doesn't Boss Zen prevent spawns? Why was he here? With my stubbornness, I didn't want to abandon this attempt. It was far from perfect, but it was far better than any of the other ones I had done so far. And I definitely needed to practice. I thought I'd be fine, since Boss Zen was active, which disables any enemy spawns during fights, but it turns out natural spawns actually aren't prevented. But I made a bad call. I ignored the eye and focused on Dragon Folly. Then this happened. Well, turns out stray arrows can melt one of the earliest fights of the game. This was bad, since in doing so, though not really intentional, I had just killed an optional boss. One that was not part of the low percent run, and in turn, changed some of the things that I could do in this world. This seemingly threw off my focus, causing me to die mere moments later after getting Dragon Folly down to 44%. I ended the stream a combination of sad and mad. That last fight was good, except I had no way to dash. Phase 2 is insanely hard because of it. I thought it would be better, except there was no dash item I could make though. I was stuck. Except for the one I can. Turns out, there is only one item I can make that gives me the ability to dash. Meet the Ornate Shield, something I found doing research after the stream requiring only 5 cryonic bars and 10 crystal shards to make. It gives you a frost dash, which is pretty good all things considered. For those who don't know, Calamity has a few different types of dashes. Not all dashes are created equal, some are just a little get out of the way, and some give you a very big distance to go from one area to another to evade larger attacks. As you'd suspect, as the game goes on, you're intended to get better and better dashes. But I was stuck with this, so let's see how good it is. June 28th, I got back to it. After reforging my equipment, I got my defense up to 122. Very nice if I do say so myself. And I do. I refined the Dragon Folly arena to have more crisp edges. I extended it a little bit to have more space between platforms so I wouldn't get caught up half the time. Half an hour of preparing later, I fought Dragon Folly. First post Moonlord down, pre-Moonlord, baby! Let's go! Please tell me I got gotta fight him again. Turns out, I was right. The dash was all I needed. That was 5 fights down, 1 to go for the low percent pre-Moonlord Yharon run. If you exclude the Eye of Cthulhu. With Dragon Folly down, I could now get my last weapon upgrade. Except I only had 13 out of the 15 feathers I needed, so I utilized a 1.3 mechanic and duplicated them just a few times. My weapon of choice was the Mad Alchemist Cocktail Glove, which is a strong magic weapon that you only need to kill Dragon Folly to make, and has post-Moonlord damage. I went to look at what materials I need to craft it and... Wait, what? Why is Requiem playing? Wait, no, that's never good. That means something bad happened. Please, no, not now. I'm doing so good. No! The video that brought up the idea for this run came out in February. I did this in June. In the 4 months that had passed since, the mod got an update that changed some of the crafting recipes. One of which was a Core of Calamity item. I needed this to make the cocktail glove. Previously, it just needed one of each of the 3 cores to make, which I could get from Ravager, but since changed to need all of those along with an Ashes of Calamity item, which drops solely from the Calamitous boss. The issue is that I can't fight Calamitous in this run, leaving me with just what I have for Yharon. Well, how bad could that be? I went to set up the arena, and for some reason, the Fire Nado on the right just didn't spawn. This was bad because once I got past where it should be, Yharon enrages, making him faster, hit harder, and overall, basically just impossible to kill. Ignoring this, how's my damage? Over a few little attempts, I dealt anywhere from 300 to 700 damage a second. Let's take an average damage of 500 damage a second. Yharon has 1,302,000 health. Using my average damage, it would take about 2,604 seconds to kill him, or a little over 43 minutes. All the while, I am 2 to 3 hits away from death. And oh yeah, remember how Dragon Folly got more aggressive as he hit 50% health? Yharon's similar, and when he hits 55%, he gets more aggressive. Being faster he charges, more projectiles are in the air, higher damage. This is significant because looking through the comments on the video, no one had ever gotten past this part, and it's easy to see why. Yharon's charges are the most crippling attack. Add to that his size and my dash can't outrun it. Now, some of you may know of an AFK strategy for Yharon. This was made by YouTuber Mr. JFL for a no equipment challenge. Clearly, that's worse than mine, right? No. Mr. JFL used the Corvid Staff, a strong summoning weapon obtained after killing the Devourer of Gods that focuses Yharon for you, letting him fly around in the Hoik loop unharmed. With my equipment, the Stardust Dragon is the best summon I have, but it would fall behind Yharon. It's just not fast enough, which makes it useless, so Phantasm with Ichor Arrows is my best option. Now I encountered the issue of having to focus the entire fight with only my arrows hitting. Being generous and estimating that only 1/4 my arrows that I fire would hit, I am looking at a fight going from 43 minutes to just a little under 3 hours. All the while, Yharon can teleport randomly in my way, which could lead me dying, having to restart everything, no matter where I was in the fight. And this is where the run ends. Yharon in a low percent pre-Moonlord run cannot be beaten with this equipment. The mod has just changed too much that this run is no longer doable in the way it was presented. What sucks is if I want to do a low percent run by replacing Dragon Folly with Moonlord, I could get better equipment. But since I'd killed Dragon Folly, I would have to start the run over. Do all of this again so I can technically meet the requirements of the run. The Yharon low percent pre-Moonlord run was over. Well, that sucks. I got this close to beating the run, but due to a recent mod change, I couldn't follow through to the end. Up until this point, I had been streaming every other day. This way, I alternated between playing games with my friends after work and streaming this run. After this, I went silent for about a week. This run always stuck in the back of my mind. There had to be something I was overlooking. Some strategy that trivialized Yharon, but there wasn't any. The Mad Alchemist Cocktail Glove was the best possible weapon for this run. At least, in the past, it was. But I can't do that now. I went back through the video to see if there was something I was missing. An alternative strat or something, but there wasn't. However, looking for any tips, I realized something. Yharon has never been beaten, not only in the low percent pre-Moonlord run, but from what I saw, had never been beaten pre-Moonlord in general. If I bend the boundaries of the challenge slightly, I could still be the first person to kill Yharon pre-Moonlord. It may not be the big run I started, but unlike that run, it may be possible. Let's get back into it. Yharon, one of my favorite fights Calamity has to offer. I know it quite well. Let's talk about that fight. As previously stated, Yharon's most lethal attack is his series of charges. The danger is just his size. I can't dash far away enough and will get hit by his very big hitbox, because look at him, he's a big boy. So, how do I get an endgame dash? Well, there is a pre-Moonlord accessory that grants a dash with immunity frames. This provides the ability to survive a charge that can easily eliminate at least half my health. This item is Asgard's Valor, a hard mode accessory that requires Desert Scourge and Brimstone Elemental to be killed. Next, let's discuss gear. The Alchemist Cocktail Glove is still my best option, so I need to kill Calamitous for the Ashes of Calamity, then need to go into the dungeon to get an alchemy table to make the thing. So, Skeletron also has to be killed. My accessories would remain mostly the same, with Asgard's Valor and an unlimited mana item from Louis FK to make mana management a lot easier. Don't think this means I'm good, because the one I use decreases my damage, which I figured would be enough of a punishment since I'm bending the rules of the run. I'd make everything warding not only to get more defense, but Calamity adds damage absorption, so I'd take a percentage of damage less for every accessory that was warding. It's pretty nice. As for potion buffs, there's going to be a lot of them. I'd kill Eye intentionally this time, which let me use the NPCs from the Alchemist mod. This way I could just buy buffs rather than have to go around grinding stuff to make all the potions. And thanks to the money I farmed from the pirates, I could just buy them. A lot of them. If I can maximize all this, then I stand a chance to face off against one of the last fights in the game, all before Moonlord. July 5th, gaming time. I started out by doing some farming in the Brimstone Crag. I followed up by melting Calamitous with Phantasm. I summoned the Eye and destroyed it. I then farmed the Solar Eclipse to get a Toxic Flask. I got tricked by an Alchemist mod weapon and was very sad.
Wait. You're joking. That's not though, but that's...
Then I killed Skeletron in less than a second. One dungeon trip later, I had gotten an alchemy table and made the beautiful Mad Alchemist Cocktail Glove and reforged it to Mythical. Fun fact about the glove, it has two different attacks. One that has a bunch of special attacks, but the other just inflicts multiple debuffs. I did a quick fight against the Brimstone Elemental and showed why the debuff attack is the superior one. I then got to work on making an Ink Shield for Asgard's Valor. I then made an unlimited mana item. I then took advantage of a lucky break earlier with a mysterious meteor that fell during a blood moon and broke it with the help of the Operator NPC. This gives me the Symbiote accessory, which provides minor buffs to everything. Not a Calamity item, but who cares. I got lucky with it spawning, and after all the runs I've had where it never spawned, I will gladly take it this time. I deleted the Desert Scourge and finally made Asgard's Valor. What was it time for? More Ravager farming, of course. I did this so I could make life bars, which let me make some more life boosting consumables. I met with a young brewer and bought well, everything. The young brewer sells combinations, which are just combinations of various potion effects. What's great is that they stack with normal potions. So I add a battle combination to the life force potion and bam, twice the health increase. This worked for every single effect. I then bought a surplus of potions from the brewer. I fought Dragon Folly again to get some supreme healing potions, which heal 250 health. And, for what may be the last time ever, I used 1.3's duplication glitch to get enough to make a bottomless supreme potion. This way, I didn't have to do a lot of hours of Dragon Folly farming, because that seemed way too tedious for my brain to enjoy at this point, especially when I'm this close to fighting Yharon. Speaking of lazy, I enabled the cheat mod to make Yharon's arena because I really couldn't be bothered at this point. The paintbrush made it easy to make the walls and clear the floating island in the middle of the arena. It worked, until it didn't, and the game crashed. I guess this was a punishment for using the cheat mod to make the arena in the first place. I made it the second time, disabled the mod, and got back into the game. I made a few regeneration buffs, and it was time. I made a house for quick respawns, set my spawn in it, and summoned one of the last bosses of the mod all before Moonlord. Probably the best way I could kill Yharon, because if this doesn't work, I honestly don't know what will. Let's go. I started the fight. I was flying around, dodging the best I could while still getting occasionally hit. I'd run into Yharon and it would take out a large chunk of my health, but I'd still survive. Then I hit the 55% mark, phase 2, a cutoff for everyone else. I tried to go opposite of Yharon to avoid projectiles. My health was draining quickly. Yharon's increased damage was proving too much until eventually it was, and I died. That was expected, but getting him down to 31%? That's really good. The issue is his increased aggression, meaning increased damage. But with my gear, I actually stood a chance. I had a shot. I had learned that I needed to be cautious of when and where he teleports. Taking damage from a projectile would protect me from damage for a brief moment, which helped me evade some of his charges. The fuller I keep my health, the faster it will naturally regenerate. I had come so far. I was not going to give in this time. I had killed only 10 bosses to get here, well below what I could have to prepare for this. I was not going to give in. If it took days, weeks, maybe longer to do so, I was going to do this as many times as it took to finally finish the run. I did it. I actually did it. Sure, I had a lot of buffs, but even then, this still wasn't a cakewalk. In my adrenaline, I fought him again with my post-Yharon items and got my ego checked very hard in the end. Yep, 1.6% left. Literally 1 second away from killing him. Oh well, I won the next fight. Wow, what a run. Despite what the video said about not attempting it, it was still fun to see how I could try and outsmart the game, even though this wasn't the ideal run. If you want a fun challenge to do, try doing Yharon pre-Moonlord. Play the game normally until Moonlord, and try and kill Yharon instead. That way you can use a lot of different things for Yharon, and not limit yourself like I did. Now, in the time since I did this run, I've seen a lot of comments about beating Yharon pre-Moonlord. The earliest one I found was posted back in August, so when I did this back in the beginning of July, I would still be the first person to do this. Trust me, I checked multiple times the night I killed Yharon if anyone else had done it. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. This video was an absolute beast to make. I wanted to get it done back in summer before fall semester started, then had some health issues and personal life things came up, which prevented me from working on it for a long time. Then 3 high-level physics classes took up almost all my time. Then I wanted to get it done before the holidays, and it turns out the giant display my family sets up takes up a lot of time. Then I wanted to get it done before New Year's, and here I am on the 5th of January 2023 finishing up the script, and January 15th finally reading it. This video had as many things to say as the 2 Portal at 10 times the speed videos combined due to the sheer amount of stuff I wanted to make sure I explained for Calamity, Terraria, and other stuff about this run to completely paint the full picture. I'd say the usual like and subscribe things, but this video kinda marks the 1-year anniversary of my return to making videos. All 2 of them until now, so I want to end this video on a more serious note. Huge shout out to GMD Killbot, Beppe1509, Shadowlord5591, A Mission from Dog, and RCXD Forsaken for their support over the past year. Their words of encouragement were a great motivation to get back into video making and streaming and being serious about it. I took their advice to heart and wanted to make my streams more entertaining and videos better edited than they ever have been. These past few videos have rejuvenated my love for content creating, like I had all 8 years ago back when I started in 2015. It has been great and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to show me that you really like what I make and you want to see more of it. Spring semester will probably be started when this is finished, so videos will probably thin out, though I want to try making more simply edited videos to kind of cut back on the extreme editing like I had to do for this one. Odds are, I'll be more frequently streaming on my Twitch, so if you want to see some runs like this live, then go over there and enjoy. I've been told by countless people that I have a good community building over there, so head on over and leave a follow so you can be notified whenever I go live. I have a few different runs going right now, so look forward to seeing more videos like this year. If you have any ideas for videos similar to this one, then feel free to let me know in the comments or message during the stream. I read all the comments and messages and reply to them all in some way or another. With all that said, thank you for joining me in this really big video, which I assume will probably be over an hour when I finally get the editing finished. I hope all of you had happy holidays and a happy new year, and I hope to see you again real soon. Until then, take it easy, everybody.